Okay, so Arknights Endfield just launched on January 22nd, and I need to talk about this because it's absolutely wild. This is a free-to-play action RPG gacha game from the developers of the original Arknights Tower Defense game, and it's basically trying to be Genshin Impact meets Factorio, which sounds insane, but somehow it actually works. The game is available on PS5, PC, iOS and Android with full cross-save so you can play on any platform and your progress carries over, which is honestly pretty convenient. Now before we get into anything else, we need to address the elephant in the room because this game launched with what might be the worst bug in video game history. There was a PayPal glitch that was literally draining people's bank accounts even if they didn't intend to spend money. Like, people woke up to thousands of euros missing from their accounts, one person got charged 1,300 euros, and the devs had to emergency disable PayPal payments and issue refunds. Everyone should get their money back, but some people might have to deal with security checks from their banks and could even incur charges, which is a nightmare. The devs responded quickly and transactions through PSN are safe, so if you're playing on PS5 you're fine, but PC and mobile players need to avoid PayPal until it's fixed. This is genuinely one of the most catastrophic launch bugs I've ever seen, and it's gonna haunt this game's reputation for a while. But putting that aside because it's getting fixed, let's talk about what this game actually is because it's way more interesting than I expected. Alright, so what actually works in Arknights Endfield, because despite the payment disaster there's a solid game here. The setting is really cool. You're on this moon called Talos 2 and you play as the administrator, which is basically the CEO of Endfield Industries. And your job is to explore this semi-open world, build industrial complexes, and manage resources while fighting enemies. The combat is real-time action with strategic elements, and you control a team of up to 4 operators, which are basically characters with unique abilities. You can switch between them on the fly during fights, and each one has completely different playstyles. There's a combo skill system where you build up meter by landing hits and then unleash special abilities. And there's this elemental synergy thing where combining different character types creates extra effects. When you're in the flow switching characters, popping abilities, and coordinating attacks, it genuinely feels satisfying. The stagger system is similar to other action RPGs, where you exploit enemy weaknesses to break their guard and then you deal massive damage. Bosses have attack patterns you need to learn and the fights can get pretty intense. But here's the wild part, the game also has this entire factory building simulation layer that's inspired by games like Factorio and Satisfactory. You harvest resources from mining nodes, connect them with ziplines, which is sick, refine materials at machines, route everything through conveyor belts, and manage electricity budgets. The devs are aiming for a 50-50 split between RPG combat and factory building, so you can adjust how much time you spend on each. The base building supplies progression items quickly, so there's an incentive to actually engage with it and build efficient production lines. The visuals are stunning for a gacha game. The art style blends realistic textures with anime characters, and it works way better than it should. The industrial aesthetic with overgrown machinery and robots wandering around feels unique and atmospheric. The soundtrack is also really good with this mix of electronic and orchestral music. Performance on PS5 is solid. Loads are short between districts, and the game looks great docked at what I assume is like 1200p or higher. Mobile performance varies depending on your device, but it runs okay on high-end phones. PC version has good optimization with DLSS support for NVIDIA cards, which helps a lot. The story is set in the Arknights universe, which has over 100 million downloads, so there's built-in lore for fans. But you don't need to have played the original to understand what's happening here. It's a separate frontier storyline about exploration and building civilization on a new world. The gacha system is honestly pretty fair compared to some games. You get a guaranteed 6-star character at 80 pulls with soft pity starting at 65, and a guaranteed featured character at 120 pulls. The rates are 0.8% for 6 stars, which is standard, and weapon pulls use a separate currency called arsenal tickets that you earn from character pulls, so you're not double dipping your premium currency. There's a beginner banner that guarantees a 6-star and 40 pulls with discounted rates, and the game seems generous with free pulls and premium currency during events. You can definitely play completely free to play and still progress. Dupes give stat bumps, but they're not required to clear content. But okay, let's talk about the problems, because aside from the payment fiasco, there are some real issues here. First off, the monetization is still gacha, which means if you want specific characters or weapons, you either grind for weeks saving currency or you pay real money. The 120 pull guarantee for featured characters sounds nice, but that's a lot of pulls, and if you're unlucky with the 50-50 system where every 6-star has a 50% chance to be the featured unit or a random one, you could spend a ton of resources and not get what you want. The weapon gacha is even worse. You need arsenal tickets, which you get from character pulls. And while the pity is better than characters with a guaranteed 6-star weapon at 40 pulls and featured weapon at 80, it still requires you to pull a lot. The fact that limited banners don't carry pity over to the next banner is brutal, so if you're at like 90 pulls and the banner ends, you basically wasted all that progress. This system heavily punishes casual pulling and rewards people who hoard currency and go all in on one banner. The game is also heavily tutorial-focused and can feel overwhelming at first. There are so many menus, so much technical jargon about production chains and crafting systems, and the game doesn't always explain things clearly. Some reviewers said the introduction is boring and the characters are bland, which is rough for a story-driven gacha. The antagonists are apparently pathetic and don't feel threatening. If you're coming to this for narrative, you might be disappointed. The factory building stuff is genuinely cool, but it's also tedious if you're not into that type of gameplay. You spend a lot of time optimizing conveyor belt routes and managing resources, and if that's not your thing, you're gonna bounce off this game hard. One review specifically said this is an industrial sim first and RPG second, so if you just want action combat, you'll be forced to do tons of base building to progress. The game also has some bugs beyond the payment issue. Players are reporting freezing when entering abnormal areas. Third-party apps with filters or AI frame interpolation can cause crashes. Some people are getting stuck on loading screens, voice audio cuts out randomly, and there are PayPal payment delays even before the major glitch. The dev team is patching stuff, but it's rough around the edges. Performance on mid-range Android phones is apparently a disaster with crashes and compatibility issues. Some devices that should be able to run it are getting not compatible messages, which is frustrating. The game takes up to 90 gigabytes during installation, though it drops to like 50 after, so you need a ton of free space. Combat can feel chaotic and button mashy, especially in real-time mode. The tactical elements shine more in the strategic layer, but the action itself isn't as polished as dedicated action games. And honestly, the game is just slow-paced in general. Progress is gated by energy systems, gacha luck, and how much time you're willing to invest in base building. If you're impatient, this will drive you crazy. So fun or refund, is Arknights Endfield worth your time in 2026? Here's the thing, it's free to play, so there's no upfront cost, but whether it's worth downloading depends on what you're looking for. If you love gacha games and you're specifically into the idea of a game that combines action RPG combat with deep factory building simulation, then absolutely yes, download this. The production quality is high, the factory stuff is legitimately engaging if you're into that genre, the combat is fun when it works, and the monetization is relatively fair for a gacha. You can play completely free to play and still enjoy the game, you just need to be smart about saving currency and targeting specific banners. But if you hate gacha mechanics, if you're not into base building and resource management, if you get frustrated by energy systems and slow progression, or if you just want a fast-paced action game without all the sim elements, then this is probably a skip. Also, right now with the PayPal bug still fresh, I'd say wait a week or two for more patches before diving in, let them iron out the major issues first. For PS5 players specifically, the game is safe to play since payments go through PSN, but PC and mobile players should be cautious about linking payment methods until the bugs are fully resolved. This game is not for everyone. It's a very specific blend of genres that will either click with you immediately or feel like a chore. For me personally, I'm giving it a conditional fun for people who are already into gachas and who genuinely enjoy factory building games. If you're in that Venn diagram overlap, this is actually pretty special and unique. If you're not, there are better action RPGs out there that don't require you to optimize conveyor belts between boss fights. The fact that this game exists and is mostly functional despite the disastrous bug is honestly impressive. And if the devs keep patching and adding content, this could become something really great long-term. But right now at launch, it's rough, it's niche, and it requires a specific type of player to really appreciate it. Try it if you're curious since it's free, just maybe wait for the bugs to get fixed, and definitely don't use PayPal until they say it's safe.